Jewish Insights with Justin Pines on JBS is made possible in part by the clubs at Pearl River, New York, luxury rental communities for ages 55 and better, and the B.L. Manger Foundation.
Shalom and welcome to Jewish Insights. As you know by now, I'm very focused on the Jewish calendar and the question raised by different times of the Jewish calendar. And right now, we're entering the month of Adar, the month of Purim, my favorite month of the year. It's such a great month that sometimes we get two of that month in the same year.
Month of Pisces, don't forget to mention.
Oh, very nice.
Pisces.
I'm not holding in that. Great, thank you for explaining. So our rabbis teach us, Misha nichnas Adar, one who enters into Adar, marbim besimcha. His joy is elevated. It's unclear if it's prescriptive or descriptive. Are we supposed to try to be happier, or just the very fact that we're walking into Adar makes us happier? The whole month of Adar is marked by all different ways of joy. There's the Purim spiel, which is when people put together some sort of skit making fun of either pop culture or what's going on in the world. There's Purim Torah. I remember when I was a bachar, a young guy in yeshiva learning to be a rabbi, I somehow managed the courage to go in front of the whole Beit Midrash, the house of study, and my Purim Torah, my fake comedic Torah, was the idea that when the Jewish people were in the desert eating man, eating the food that God gave them, that it turns out the man was actually magic mushrooms, and that they were all, that's what it was about, and that's how they saw Mount Sinai, and that's how, but it was a great moment as an example. And then of course, most famously, the Megillah, the story of Esther and Haman and Achashverosh is this amazing tragedy / comedy with a happy ending, where the Jewish people are at the end of losing their lives, and there's all these comedic moments, and somehow it comes out onto the other side, and they survive, and everything's okay. And so what I wanted to explore today as part of a larger series on Purim was the role of humor, the role of comedy, the role of joy alongside comedy, why it sometimes feels like such a Jewish question and a Jewish theme. And so in thinking about how to discuss the question of Judaism and comedy, my guest today seemed the most obvious answer. He's probably the most popular comedian who talks openly about his Judaism out there right now, Modi Rosenfeld, known as Modi.
About a guy that goes to his rabbi and says, "Rabbi, never believe what happened to me. My son left the house and became a Christian." The rabbi said, "Shh, never believe what happened to me. My son left the house too and became a Christian. So what do? We pray to God." They prayed to God, and God said, "You never believe what happened to me."
Modi's been on HBO, CBS, NBC, ABC, Comedy Central, Howard Stern, E! Entertainment, the list goes on. You can see online his amazing Know Your Audience tour, which was his past tour, which was absolutely amazing. A lot of like gems of wisdom in there. And he's right now in the middle of his Pause for Laughter tour, and you can find him in a theater or venue near you. And so with that, Modi, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the introduction. Very well done. Usually it's a hesped. Usually they're giving eulogies. You were wonderful. Amazing, amazing.
We had Shlomo Brody talk about confronting mortality a couple weeks ago.
No, that's
not this one.
No,
the Jews win at the end of Purim. We're
exactly.
Okay. Exactly. All right, so tell me a little bit. I know I'm not going to ask you about you were investment banker and changed. I want to just ask a little bit how you got into comedy, your comedic heroes. Like, how did that path come about? Like, what were you like telling jokes as a kid in front of the whole family? What's the story?
Okay. The kids are a miser. In a short, not schlepped that way. Doing investment banking, I was in an office, international office, and so we were all kinds of accents and over-the-top characters, as you can imagine. And I would come home at night with my friends, go out, for drinks, whatever we did, and I would imitate all the people I was working with. And one of my friends said, "Do this on stage." Mm-hmm. And I'd never been to a comedy club.
Right.
And he organized it, literally. Donnie Moss organized my first show, open mic night. He brought a few of his friends, because you had to bring people in order to get stage time.
They got to buy drinks.
Yeah, they had to buy 2 drinks and a cover, whatever. And then I caught the bug right away. And the owner of the club said, "To something there, work on it and come back." And he put me on a few times. And the club was on 78th and Broadway. It's called Stand Up in New York. And 30 years later, I'm doing 3 sold-out shows at the Beacon Theater, 5 blocks down.
Amazing.
Moshiach energy.
Wow, right.
That's it.
I want to get to Moshiach energy for
Yeah.
sure. So you weren't like studying the craft. You didn't go to comedy school. It was just like this like thing that like was a natural gift of yours that you didn't realize you had to put in the world.
If you have to go to
stumbled on.
comedy school to study comedy, you need to ask yourself, should you be doing comedy?
Right. Did you love comedies growing up though? Or were you like,
I didn't. To be honest with you, it wasn't like today where it's in every post you see. Back in the day, there was Bill Cosby, and there was George Carlin, and whoever HBO put on.
Right.
So that's what I thought comedy was. And then Jackie Mason stepped into was available to the world, because we didn't grow up in the Catskills. We came from Israel, so I didn't see the Catskill comedians, and so Jackie Mason was like really the first wow. And then when I began doing comedy, there was no YouTube yet. So I would go to the Museum of Television and Film, and you tell them what you want to see, and they set you up in a booth, and they'd like, it was that drawn out, and you'd have to sit there, and I fell in love with Alan King.
okay, I don't know who that is, to be honest.
So that's it. I'm almost jealous of you.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube and look
right.
for, he had an entire special at Carnegie Hall. In 1980, he taped it. And you'll see a very similar to me.
Wow.
It was Jewish, but we're doing good.
Yeah.
We're doing all right.
Right.
Things are this, but still funny. Here's a jab, here's a this. But not from a nebbishi point of view.
Right.
And I said, that's it. And his cadence in comedy was on another level.
Wow.
On another level.
All right, you gave me homework. My guys were like, I was Chris Rock, Eddie Murphy, Eddie Izzard, if you know the British comedian. Those are all my guys.
Obsessed.
Yeah.
I watched Eddie Izzard's special over and over and over and over. It's amazing.
Dress to Kill?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember
God.
the night, I watched
Ciao!
it. It was,
Ciao! Ciao!
Everyone in Italy's doing ciao.
Ciao!
I saw that on HBO. This is again pre all YouTube. I was so obsessed that, and we had like satellite where you had East Coast and West Coast. I waited up 3 hours that night for it to replay on the West Coast and taped it on a VHS tape so I could have it because I was so obsessed and I watched it over and over.
Who the hell remembers
amazing.
that? That's amazing. That's amazing.
I was like, this is gold. I don't know what this is, but I need to have it so I can keep watching it. It was so funny. It's
right, we didn't have Netflix. You can just click whatever you want. If you knew something was coming on, you had the VHS, and you could record over your bar mitzvah if it wasn't labeled right. You could record over your bar mitzvah.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are the times. Right. So, and then alongside that, you
look good. How old are you?
I am turning 42, I think. Yeah.
And I know her, and all of that you remember. Wow. I guess you really caught that.
I remember aha moments. That was a big moment for me. I stuck with Eddie Izzard since then. I think he's hilarious. And
genius.
That Dress to Kill on HBO, that's special.
He came to the Comedy Cellar the other night. He popped in. I don't think he was doing a set, but I think he's running for some kind of...
He's always literally running. He's a marathon runner, and he also does politics stuff.
Politics now.
Yeah.
And I think they changed their name to something else, but I was like, yeah, okay, wow.
Yeah.
But he was just... I'll tell you what is amazing about it, because there didn't need to be a punchline. He just like that, and everybody's left. And the same thing with my comedy. Sometimes I get more on a facial expression than I do from an actual punchline. Right. And he was like he is a king of that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Wait, and I want to ask you about your craft, but one more question, just in terms of understanding where you came from. You're very obviously well steeped, not only in like the Jewish world, but in all different facets, right? You speak about Ashkenaz Jews, Sephardi Jews, like so you throw in Yiddish, meaningful Torah. Like, what's the story there? Like, you had an upbringing around everyone? Like, how did you know all this stuff?
Around everyone.
Okay.
I really was immersed in everyone. So I went to BU, and in BU there was a Lubavitch yeshiva on campus. I spent more time there than I did in my classes. I learned more. I met Rabbi Posner, who introduced me to the Lubavitch Rebbe, which changes anybody's life once you understand what the Rebbe is. And I didn't understand back then what it was.
Right.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I met him. I received dollars.
Wow.
When I moved to New York, I went Sundays to go get dollars. I still didn't understand what I was doing, what was happening. And then I graduated BU, and I took a minor in voice, and I got and I loved doing cantorial stuff, and I loved cantorial music. Right. So I got a scholarship to the Bell School of Music and studied under Cantor Malovani, Cantor Bear, Geffen,
That's crazy.
Biggest of the generations of actual chazanish and nusach and correctness of davening. And then I studied voice with Ari Klein, which is one of the biggest, could be one of the generation's best chazanim. And then I just love it. I just love Cantorial. So there's that world.
Do you do that still?
In my synagogue, 6th Street Synagogue, I used to always do the Kol Nidre services, but now you need to prepare. You can't just go up there, and that means a week of not doing shows before. I don't have that anymore.
Right.
And during COVID, it switched over. We found a very lovely guy who used to be a Maccabee, and now he does it. And I sit back like a balabus.
Right.
It's really like but if I'm there for Shabbat, I'll do Shachris or Musaf. We'll do whatever. Rosh Chodesh benching. I do. And it's in a great synagogue. And I do weddings once in a while for family and friends.
Right.
Put the robe on, the whole hat,
amazing.
The whole 9 yards I'll give them. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so you have this whole rich background. Talk to me about how you coming into the comedy space. First of all, were you always kind of I want to lean into my Jewish identity as a comedian, or were you torn in that? How did that develop?
Amazing question. So when you start doing comedy, it's like, you know what it is? To be honest with you, people tell me when they have their kids, they throw them in the pool, and the kid has to figure out how to get out of it.
Yeah.
My goal up front was get laughs. Mm-hmm. So here I am starting comedy. It really, 93, I was passed at the Comedy Cellar in 94, which is when I hit the clock of when I'm starting to do comedy.
Okay.
But I was doing these over-the-top characters. I can't even explain to you, imitating Latinos and French people and gay people and all the secretaries, and it was so over the top. In my first months, I was closing the show at the comic strip because it was so big.
Wow.
Then you can hone it in a little bit, and then your voice begins to develop. And my voice began to develop as a Jew, because I'm just a big Jew.
Right, you don't check it at the door. This is
right, you don't check it. And now that I got control of the stage, I've got control of an audience, I was able to, okay, I'm a Jewish voice, and it's a proud Jewish voice, and I'm also Israeli, and I also know Orthodox and Sephardim and all of that, and it developed, and then I began to do not just the comedy clubs, and I talk about this now in my new show, and people love it. It's, I talk about how I caught the tail end of the Catskills. So in 1995, Arnold Graham, who was the rap agency which booked the entire Catskills, when they had 165 hotels, that agency filled all the acts, singers, and they saw me and said, "Hey kid, do you want to work the mountains?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Call me Moses."
Yeah.
And they brought me to the Concord Hotel, and it was my first time. I'm a New York City comedy club comic.
Right.
Never done a set over 20 minutes.
Right.
Max.
Right. And it's the
all of a sudden, there's a band. Grown men in tuxedos. MC goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, here's Modi," and he turns to me and goes, "Do an hour." An hour? I don't have an hour. I literally went up there and I figured it out.
Right.
And it was, what's really funny is my first show in the Catskills, there was 2 shows that night. It was at the Concord Hotel, opening for Claire Barry.
Okay, I don't know, I'm not holding, sorry.
From the Barry sisters.
Oh, got it, okay, fine.
Exactly, she's the only one that was still alive.
Yeah.
And then, so I opened for her, I did 20 minutes, amazing. He said no one walked out.
Wow.
He said no one walked out.
Congrats.
Because those of you who don't know, the Catskills, people had a table.
Right.
So if someone hated you, it wasn't a heckle, it was like, "That's enough," and they picked themselves up. "That's enough," and the arm up.
Yeah.
So he said, "No one walked out on you." That was the you did well.
Right.
She did, and then he drove me to the Raleigh Hotel to do the late show there, and that was 40 minutes.
Wow.
I'm like, where do I have 40 minutes from? Right. But luckily, the whole place was lit, and I really did crowd work.
Right.
And they were great, and then I just began doing hundreds of shows up there.
Wow.
I was a New York City comedy club comic, and then weekends picking up gigs over there, and then getting other stuff, comedy clubs all over America, and and then synagogues. Mm-hmm. I didn't curse on stage.
Right.
Because I never saw Jackie Mason curse on stage.
Right.
Later on, I almost tried to be a little more edgy, and a rabbi of mine said, no nivel peh. There's no need for any of that.
Right.
And that got me corporate gigs and synagogue gigs and all kinds of, which has been amazing.
Right. It worked. Like I guess as you're saying, like you found an audience that was like accepting you for who you were, and they loved it, and so you flowed with it.
Yeah. So I found it's but like you said, your viewers here. My viewers are 18 to 88.
Right.
If not 90s.
Right.
And so I was able to do comedy clubs where there was nobody Jewish,
right.
or no one came for a Jewish experience,
right.
And then go do a synagogue, and then go do the Catskills,
right.
where everybody was the average age deceased,
right.
and then do, and so it was building up all of this
right.
fan bases, yeah.
Right, I love and know your audience. I guess Chandler, I think is his name, or something. Chandler, the guy, the non-Jewish guy.
The non-Jewish guy.
You find a way, you really have a way to, and we try to do this as an organization at JBS, to be in conversation with people regardless of their religious background, regardless of their age, appeal to all, that my Aunt Betty's obsessed with you and my family's obsessed with you. Everyone is into it. It's great.
There's nothing better than, I'm telling you, when we get on our DMs, direct messages, people tell us, I caught you and I brought all my Jewish friends from work to see you. Mm-hmm. They never heard of you.
Right.
Or my Jewish people that say, I brought all my non-Jewish friends, so they have to see you.
Bring you in.
So it's really, it's amazing. I say now, it's not just Jewish, it's goyim, gays, and theys, where everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome. All right, so tell me a little bit about your craft, let's say, just for a second. I'm curious, you're doing this amazing observation work of what's going on out there. How do you prepare your jokes? What's the work? Are you constantly taking notes everywhere you go, or what do you do?
We do take notes when things happen that are funny.
First, I like that you said we. Who's we?
Me and my husband.
Okay.
I'm with my husband all the time, and when I say something and see a little bit of a smirk on his face, we right away text it to myself, and then try it on stage, try to build around it. If he says something, if anybody says something that's funny, I'll literally put it down, and we were in Fire Island, we were on the beach, and that joke about the watch and millennials don't wear watches, it really was, we were 5 guys on the thing, someone was wearing a loop, and they became a joke.
Right.
But the idea was there. So I don't sit every day for an hour, from 2 to 4, I write material. No, that's not how I work.
Right.
We just live life, and things happen, and things funny here, there. You watch the inauguration, and a punchline comes out, and so we wrote that down, made a bit out of it. That's my process in that,
That's cool. I feel like I relate to that with Torah a little bit. I'm constantly trying to learn Torah or meet people who share Torah, and then if something really sticks with me, I'll be wow, I need to either bring that person on JBS so people can meet them, or share their Torah, or bring it to a class. You're just you're going through the world and taking it in, and then then you have to obviously do the work of, it's not just a funny idea, how do you craft it for delivery so that it's perfect, obviously.
I think I think the biggest thing is to make it relevant to someone's life. There's rabbis who love to show that they can slug up from everywhere in the world, and everybody walks away thinking he's a very smart, learned man. But what am I taking away? What's my at the end of the day? How am I going to be a better person? How am I going to create Moshiach energy? That it has to all come down to it.
Know your audience, right?
Know your audience.
You have to know your audience. Great. Tell me a little bit around. I happen to think comedy is such a powerful method to bring ideas to people, right? I think, some of my rabbinical school buddies, where you'll appreciate this joke, there's 7 of us, we're called the Sheva Nikiim, that's our crew name. We're very into comedy. We refer to some of the comedians as rebbes, really. We think of them as they're rebbes. They're people going on stage to teach their Torah, for lack of a better term. It's a different format than a Dvar Torah, obviously, but you're bringing an idea out there. Are you, is it, you mentioned at the beginning, it was I just want to get the laughs. I know there's a piece of it, I want to get people in seats. Do you have moments where you're thinking about something's off here. Like, oh, the way Ashkenazi Jews treat their rabbi is wrong. I need to make a joke about that to alert people to that. Is it ever like a sense of like, I want to flip people's brains a little bit? I have an idea. I want to get to them. Do you think of it that way sometimes?
Okay, so I'm comparing Sephardic and Ashkenazi, and if you see, I'm much more on the Sephardic people's side. Why? Because I'm Ashkenazi. Right. If I was just, and you can spin the joke right around, right. You know, you can make it right, sure. You know, but you take the Sephardic side to it. First of all, they're in love with you, and they love to show their love. Right. Right. Ashkenazi be like, okay, so that's good. That's a good joke. It's a good joke. It's a good joke. Oh, yeah, kiddish. Oh, it's a good joke. Like, the joke was something else. You know, it's a different. So I take on their side. When we started doing Sephardic Ashkenazi material, I cannot tell you how the DMs, everybody told us their story. Right. My father's this, my mother's that, my dad is this, I married that, we cooked this, we cooked that, we cooked that. I don't know why they felt the need to tell me that.
That's so interesting.
It was, they just, it poured out of them, and it united them. It's God forbid it should be a separating thing. It's a fun thing that makes us a little more unique to each other. Yeah. And our kids are that, and my son is this, and he does that, and doesn't eat this. It's such a great, it really unified many people.
That's so cool. You gave permission for people to enter into that conversation.
Yeah,
and it flips a switch. I think like it was so true. Like we lament it sometimes. Like Ashkenaz rabbis, for example, is like people don't show enough kavod, respect for them compared to it, right? So I think like do you is there an element for you where you are trying to like change audience perspectives intentionally sometimes? Do you think about it that way?
So I will tell you, you have the intention, but you don't write the material. Like, have the intention.
Right, it's not a political speech.
Have the intention. Right. My intention, I swear to you, is that a job of a comedian, to make people who are sad happy, mm-hmm. and to bring peace whenever there is a riff in a situation. Mm. And that's my job, and that's my intention. Then I write my material. Not my material. What will bring peace or happiness to somebody?
Right.
It'll happen now. Mm-hmm. Whatever you intend will happen.
Beautiful.
And so you're sitting here with all these cameras. You intended this. This is an intention of yours, and the same thing with my comedy. My intention is to bring happiness to all sad people and peace. That's it. That's the intention. And then let's figure out the comedy will come together on its own.
Beautiful. So taking it one step further, how do you think for yourself about success?
I'll tell you even funny because during COVID we sat there and did that Yoli character. Did you ever see the Hasidic character?
I think I've seen it once. So, remind me, please.
So we're sitting literally at it's COVID.
Yeah.
We built a studio in the house.
Yeah.
I'm dressed as a Hasid. I mean, except for shorts.
Right. Zoom.
And we're zooming in, and my husband put up whatever was the background and whatever the topic was, and I would riff and this and that, and Leo would say to me, "No. What's the combined?" So then, and he would explain what's the similarities between Yoeli and anybody else in the world, right. Not the differences. And then and I would just start saying it, and he'd go, I go, don't forget the Yeah. So that was, So go for the similarities, not the differences.
Beautiful. And so then I'll like ask that question further. So like when you think about success, right? I know I've heard you say on stage like buy tickets to my show. That's one way of success. But as you think, you're reaching a point in your career. Not that I know everything about your career, but from where I'm sitting watching you on Instagram and on YouTube, right? You're starting, as you said, like I would say, even more control. You're thinking about where you want to go with this. You think of your Jackie Mason, who by the way has been a guest on this channel, not with me, but with my predecessor, Rabbi Mark Golub. What does success look like for you? Where do you want to go with this, and what kind of impact do you want to have? When you look back on your career, what are you imagining?
So our DMs are packed with people telling us things from whatever relative, my mother, my father, my aunt has this disease, and she watches your videos all day long. It's what gets her through the day. Someone wrote me, my father and I have nothing in common except watching your videos. We were at your show. We haven't laughed in 6 years since our daughter died. I get, let's say 1 a day, 2 a day, sometimes 10 a week. I want hundreds. I want hundreds of those. I want those nonstop. I want that. So you need to hit a critical mass. I'm so happy for all the achievements we've done. We just had 3 shows at the Beacon. We have a full tour scheduled coming out, but you can hit a bigger, broader audience. You can hit more non-Jewish. I just want to open it up to many, many more. And doing television projects and doing that kind of stuff might do that.
Right.
So we are open to all of that. But the goal of a Jewish comedian, the goal of a comedian is to bring laughter to sad people and peace. And
Beautiful.
that's it.
And one day we need you in a comedic musical, apparently, because you could sing too, it sounds like.
I could sing, so people say, do Fiddler on the Roof. I would do it only if they did the 4 songs he did. I don't want the rest of the story.
Right.
It's too long. It's a 2.5-hour thing with an intermission. You could die. No one can watch more than 39 seconds of a video. They're going to sit through 2.5 hours of Fiddler on the Roof in a chair that no one can fit into.
Right.
No, but if anybody wants to do Fiddler on the Roof with the 4 songs I sing, I'll be happy to do that.
Deal. We'll have it on JBS. So you mentioned a little bit that the way comedy has this amazing power to help people heal or distract or just go through adversity with it. Certainly one of the questions of this moment post October 7th is thinking about how we think about comedy. Does your comedy change post October 7th? Were you like, I got to tell jokes tomorrow? Like there was this amazing piece I saw in downtown about from Avram Lotek, and Zalman Lotek, the idea that like during the Holocaust, all these artists were making art nonstop. But it's different. October 7th, there was a day, and now the pain after. Like, how do you think about comedy in that world?
Luckily, I didn't have to think. Like, we were in Israel when the war happened. Mm-hmm. We had a full tour during Sukkot, and then we went to sleep Saturday, we went to sleep Friday night, Saturday flying to Paris to do 4 shows in Paris. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The Monday after the Saturday of the invasion, we had shows. And we were thinking, what do we do? How? What? And it was so blatant, we did it. Between the police, our producers, Leo, and everybody, we did it. And it was so the right thing to do. It was unbelievable. And I saw Moshiach energy again. You're taking people who were Monday after the war. So they're still on their phones.
They don't even know it's flying totally.
We're still learning what happened. Yeah. Did you hear about this? The kid was taken? The grandparents? We're still learning. And all of a sudden, lights go down, the phones go off. I did the show as if nothing happened. And for an hour and 10 minutes, everybody had their whatever chemicals happen in your head when you laugh. And at the end, I sang Hatikva with everybody.
Wow.
Just to regroup. And remember, we just laughed. And it's mitzvah gedol yot b'simcha. You have to be b'simcha. And then we sang Hatikva. Since then, we've been singing Hatikva at the end of every show. Wow. Now, I talk a little bit about the situation. But back then, it was like an hour and 10 minutes. You have to think about anything else but laughing. And that's why the tour now is called Pause for Laughter. You've got to pause for laughter. Yes, watch your Instagram, send your money, go to your fundraisers, watch the videos of what's happening, go to the Noah Festival, go to everything, but also make time for laughter.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's also, you talk about Ashkenazi and Sephardi. I think one of the jokes in my head, at least, you probably have a better bit about this than I do, is the way Americans and Israeli deal with trauma or the challenges, right? In America, you have American Jews are like, the world's coming to an end, anti-Semitism, we're in so much trouble, and like none of their kids are on the front lines except for the ones that are in Israel. And then in Israel, you have families where their kids are in the army or and they're like going on with their day and like going out and having fun and not sitting home like crying over it. It's a totally different way to think about like that resiliency. Do you see that a little bit also? This is like Israeli resiliency and American resiliency are different, or am I projecting?
It's a different, listen, in Israel, so we've been back to Israel twice. We did 2 big shows there, which were amazing. And wow.
What a beautiful thing to do, to go and make people laugh there.
And I would do more if it was easier.
Yeah.
But the producers of the shows are scared to book venues, are scared to put deposits down. They don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
We had a show at the, where the Echala Tarbut, Tel Aviv, where the symphony is.
Okay.
3,000 seats.
For sure.
And it was in Tel Aviv, right? Yeah. Across from the Bima and all that. And people, they were waiting for Iran to do a strike. So no one knew. They had an email that day, hey, the show is still on.
Right.
The announcements before I go on, if you hear an alarm, stay in the building. The building has a special, it's built in a way with the bomb, it can resist a bomb, and here's Modi. You know, so they needed it so bad. I would do a lot more if it was easier to do.
Right.
It's impossible. It's very hard to get. So we are planning it with the European show. Berlin, Tel Aviv. That's how the calendar's looking, by the way,
that's
for the upcoming show.
Amazing.
Yeah.
They need it too.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, talk to me a little bit around, you know, we talk about resilience and comedy and pain. Do you see like Jewish humor as like different than regular comedy? Is there like, how would you describe Jewish comedy? And is it what do you see there?
It's not. It's a Jewish. So Jewish humor is humor from a point of view. It's observational from a Jewish point of view. Has to be in a way that everybody else can observe it and understand it. Wait,
unpack. What does that mean? Say that again.
I can't talk about whether Sephardics do the kedusha with Kesser. They start with Kesser, and the other one starts with Nagdishcha. So, what are you doing?
Right.
No. Know your audience.
Right.
It's got to be a portal into the Jewish world.
Right.
Through comedy and pride. And so they can see that. And it has to be, again, it's a Jewish point of view. So I'm very proud to say I'm a Jewish comedian. There's comedians who are Jewish. Right?
A lot of them.
Funny thing was, I used to always say Jerry Seinfeld is a comedian who happens to be Jewish.
Yeah.
After October 6th, he became a Jewish comedian.
Right.
But not by choice.
Right.
He became a Jewish comedian.
Right.
Which was an amazing thing.
Sure.
So Jewish comedy is you're seeing a Jewish point of view, maybe on a Jewish topic.
Right.
And it has to be available to everybody and explain to everybody. So in Know Your Audience, I'm explaining all the jokes to a person who's not Jewish.
Right.
You know?
By the way, it's amazing the way you do that. Like, I try to be that way when I'm a teacher in a classroom. Kind of be like, well, different people know different things here. How do I review? How do I bring it back? How do I explain to that person? You kind of like play off of everyone. It's beautiful to watch. So to go a step further on the Jewish comedy piece, right? I think one of the knocks, especially, you know, I was interviewing someone recently and they talked about this idea that Jews as allies to other cultural groups always check their Judaism at the door.
Right.
It's kind of, we show up to help you and we're not proud about our Judaism. And I think one of the knocks, I don't want to broadly stroke Hollywood, that's obviously everyone's different there, but there's an element of kind of, you know, there are so many Jews in Hollywood, but they're spending a lot of time telling other stories. They tell Holocaust stories for sure, but like the modern Jewish stories they tell are usually very self-deprecating. They make fun of Jews, they make Jews look terrible. There's not a ton of Jewish pride coming out there.
Even when there is a Jewish pride thing, or at least a lesson in Judaism, like Schindler's List, you learn about the Holocaust. You see what you learn so much if you haven't seen it. But who's the hero?
Right. Oscar Schindler.
Is Oscar Schindler Jewish?
No.
No.
By the way, you picked a good one to pick there. I am, my grandfather was saved by Oscar Schindler, by the way.
Really?
Crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
My daughter Caroline, her Hebrew name is Amalia because of his Amalia factory.
Right.
But you are right.
Amazing story now that came out about the guy that saved all those children from England.
Right.
And again, they did the movie showing you the horrific things that these kids had to go through. Who's the hero at the end? This one guy who righteous guy,
right?
A righteous guy,
of
a
course.
righteous,
by the way,
a righteous saved Jewish lives, and you know. So I always see that in Hollywood, but as long as they're telling the story.
Here come the Christians at the end.
Here come the Christians. Yes. All right.
Right, and then when they do the Jewish stuff, it's like I think Nobody Wants Us. I don't know if you saw that. That felt a little bit more like a little bit closer to at least respectful depiction of Jews, but most of it
I didn't see that. I didn't see it. But last night we were having a conversation, but you know the world. So last night I learned a fact that 40% of Americans have never met a Jew.
Wow.
It was an insane thing to learn.
Yeah.
Because we were looking. It was really funny. We had this. I was on a podcast with the. With
your podcast?
No. I was invited to the Comedy Sellers podcast, and it was really funny. They had the head of the ADL, Jonathan Rosenblatt, and they put up a map they call the heat map, and it's like where instances happen. And I go, that's my touring route.
Right.
It's literally, that's my touring. I'm going to be in Chicago, I'm going to be in Baltimore. This is exactly where all of these, and it's all where the Jews are. And then he told me that 40% of Jews have never, 40% of Americans have never met. It's an insane thing to think about.
Right.
And then you understand, so the Jews they have met are Larry David.
Right.
That's what they seen. That's what they saw as a Jew.
Right.
They saw Larry David. They see a guy who looks like Larry David, trying to get an extra egg into his omelet, bargaining with the woman to get an extra egg into his omelet.
Right.
And they're happy. That's what Jews are.
Right.
Look how clever he is.
Right.
Look how clever he is. He worked in the kitchen. He gave him an extra. That's what they think Jews are.
Right. Right.
That's what they think Jews are.
Right.
And it's not.
Right, and I'll even add to that. That's a huge piece of it, and then you add a whole different layer, which is that not only you're Jewish, but like you're like I don't want to project onto what your religious practice is, but you're, let's call it traditional practice or something like you. It's not like you you take it very seriously. It's a big part of your identity. Which there's even less of that. There's never been a modern Orthodox Jew on TV, as far as I know. That's even like a smaller sliver of what's out there.
Right.
And people, they're not going to see that at all, right? Even the Nobody Wants Us is a insight into liberal Judaism. It wasn't an insight into traditional Judaism. Or you have like a shtisel, which is the other end of the extreme.
Wild, yeah.
But like the kind of modern Orthodox New York Jew has not like shown up, as far as I could tell, in media in that way.
But look, go for more than modern Orthodox. So let's say like the character I do Nir.
Yeah.
The Israeli that comes here and he knows everything. He marries an American. It's a character.
Right.
He's proud. Yeah. He's showy. He's this and that. He's not looking to get an extra egg in his omelet. He tips big. He drives a fat car. You know what I'm saying? It's not. I mean, it's a stretch for me, but it's it's a character. It's a part of the Jewish buildup.
Right.
But the rest of America doesn't know that.
Right, at all.
They only see Larry David, Woody Allen. They only see, I don't want to say weak, but that.
Right. There's not Jewish pride in the way that you're showing up on stage with a sense of Jewish pride.
Yeah.
You're having characters who are diverse characters from, like, let's call it the Jewish galaxy of stars.
Yeah.
And within that, you're trying to show them in a way where they're proud of who they are and they're leaning into that. It's not like we're so embarrassed about this.
So again, when I write my material, I said the intention is make people happy, bring peace, and then my material, I talk about how Jews, I have this bit, I talk about how every building that has some kind of healing, education, or culture has a Jewish name on it. And then I built off of that, and it came into, and then I talk about Muslims and Moshiach in it, and I forgot exactly why I was getting to this point, but you have to show what the Jews have done to help the world, not just. And I'm not saying. And Larry David is genius. It's genius.
Right.
He's brought laughter to millions. Mm-hmm. There's families who that's their thing. We as a family, we watch Larry David.
Right.
So that's Moshiach energy.
Right.
But the question is like, hey, where your father had his heart attack, and did you see that the name was Goldstein Pavilion?
Right.
You know, when you check O'Brien in room 1303, but the pavilion was Goldstein.
Right.
Which is, by the way, it's an amazing piece of chachma I had. When they say, why are there so many Jews in comedy? Mm-hmm. That question everybody's asking that question. It is what we were put here to do. Mm. It is what we were put here to do. When you see a building that says Goldstein Pavilion, and whether it's in a museum, a hospital, a university,
sure.
That's what we're here to do, and to bring healing into the world. Mm. That's what we were brought to do. We were the chosen people, right? In the Torah, where it says we're the chosen people, it wasn't said the chosen to be the number one, the strongest, the greatest. It was the ones to bring over. Mm. Wisdom and knowledge and comedy is wisdom.
Light unto the nations.
Chokhmah.
Yeah, wisdom.
Koach of ma, the energy of what?
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
You like that? You'll be using that.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell right away you'll be using that.
I'm adding it to my joke list. There you go. So it's interesting you mentioned that. I think something behind what you're saying, if I could pull out, is also like a struggle with Jewish power, if that makes sense. I feel like there's this like weird we have this syndrome here, right? Israel, there's no struggle with Jewish power. Israel is like, we need to have Jewish power because of the Holocaust. We're going to defend ourselves. But in America, there's this thing of like, we want to like improve society, but like we don't want to be so in your face about it, but we're going to put our name on a billboard. But when it comes to like Hollywood, we don't want to have proud, strong Jews on TV because we don't want to like be public about it. It feels like almost like we were like ashamed that we're good at certain things. And I hear you saying kind of, we need to lead into that. We need to be more similar to our Israeli brothers and sisters, where they're like, look, we're good at army, we're good at technology, we're good at Torah. Like, okay, we're good at comedy, and we're proud to be Jewish. That kind of piece, beautiful. So that actually brings us nicely into the area of Purim, right? Because Purim's also this like weird holiday where it's like the story of Jews in diaspora having no power, coming into power, saving the day at the end. All these comedy pieces. Let's go to the comedy lane of it a bit. Just a fluffy question to start. Do you have your own memories growing up Purim? Like, what was your funniest or best costume? Let's just start there. Were you into Purim as a kid? Was that
I was never
candy?
Crazy into Purim. And then obviously when I began to become a Jewish comedian, I was hired for events.
Gigs, right?
So they would do the Megillah reading and then they'd hire me to do the show. And I'm gonna tell you, one of my favorite Purims in the world, and I'll never forget this Purim. It was at I think it was Scarsdale, Young Israel, Scarsdale.
Okay.
This was towards like a year or two into COVID, so maybe 22.
Okay.
But still COVID.
Yeah.
Still COVID. And so again, when you're a Jewish comedian, let's build this one. Let's build this from the beginning. You before spoke about, in the Torah it says, in the Talmud it says that Anshe Bediche, people of comedy, what's their job? You know the Talmud, no?
Yeah, I've heard of the Talmud. I don't know where you're going with it. Tell me.
Okay, so
teach me.
I learned so much on that Purim. Let me tell you what I learned. So, in the Talmud where it says, there's a story where Elijah the prophet's in the shuk, he's in the market, two people come over to him and ask him, who here in the marketplace has chelik be'olam haba, has a portion of the world to come? And he points to two guys over there. They go and ask those two guys, what do you do? And they say, Anu anshe b'diche, we are men of b'dichot, laughter.
Okay.
Anu mebatche matzuve, we make people who are sad happy, inami. And also, when there is a riff, we bring peace through laughter.
That's your mission statement, man.
Mamish. So now, on top of that, we do this event, and we get hired to do a comedy show at the synagogue. The synagogue is divided down the middle between people who think there should be a minyan indoor and people who have a minyan outdoor.
Ugh, those days.
We can't remember those days, but they were so horrific.
Yeah.
So they built this ridiculous tent, the FEMA tent outside, and all the old people were sitting there on top of each other with the masks.
Right.
Young people already tapped out, we're good.
Yeah.
Vaccines in us, we are in the shul, the kids are running around, period.
Sure.
Some guy said, what would it take to bring Modi to the shul? We gave the price, and that's it. So they did 2 Megillah readings, and then in the big sanctuary, not sanctuary, where they do the weddings, they set it all up, and the entire synagogue was there. They had a mic with a nightstand with a sound speaker, and it's one of the best shows I ever had in my life. And for the first time since COVID, that entire shul was united.
Wow.
So, back to the Anu Anshe Bediche, we are men of laughter. Yeah. So when you read that, anybody who's a comedian has the chelik in the world to come.
Yeah.
Right? Has a portion of the world to come.
Sure.
But why is it 2 people?
Right.
Why is it 2 people?
Yeah.
If it's every comic has chelik be'olam haba,
right.
It should be the guy over there's a comedian. Go ask him what he does. I'm a comedian. You have a chelik in the world to become. Okay, good to know.
But there's 2
Why
guys.
There's 2?
Yeah.
Why? Because the comic needs somebody. He needs the producer. He needs his manager. He needs his agent. He needs the guy who says, what would it take to bring Modi to do a comedy show? And bring that. I had that realization in 2016 in a synagogue also, where the synagogue was divided right down the center with Trump's first presidency.
Yeah.
The rabbi said to me, we've broken off into 2 minyans.
Wow.
And brothers in different minyanim. That's how divided the synagogue was. And that was the first time they all came together was for a comedy night.
Wow.
So that's where you saw the power to bring people to bring peace Once they've all laughed and they're going to go have a cookie and talk to each other with a cup of coffee, they're in a different headspace.
Oof.
So that's what it's about, and that's creating Moshiach energy. When that guy says, "What does it take to bring Modi to the show?"
Right.
Moshiach energy. He's creating Moshiach energy. He's bringing people to a comedy show.
I love it. So let's talk about Moshiach energy for a second. I know you say that all the time. It happens to be the rabbis say that when when Moshiach comes, Purim will be the only holiday after that. The whole holidays will go away.
Right.
Mashiach and Purim go together. When you're saying Mashiach energy, what are you saying?
Moshiach energy to me is unity. It's again one step before. The most important line in the world: Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Not that there is one God saying you're good, you're bad, you get this, you get that. That doesn't. Not a bearded guy up in the. It's an energy of oneness. It's an energy of oneness. I don't know. I knew about this moment that we're having now a few, not long ago. But my manager, my Anshe Bediche, my partner in comedy, put this together. Yeah. There's godliness in this. There's that when things work in order, in harmony, it's God. When I'm doing a comedy show and you see 3,000 people laughing at the same time, that's Mashiach energy.
Beautiful.
And the goal is full-time Mashiach energy.
Right.
Full-time, living in a messianic era. And I'm telling you, that's the goal. And people don't understand that. Jews, the number one goal is Mashiach. I've done events where and the number one goal is every Jewish child should have a Jewish education. That's the most important thing, and no. It's not. It's a part of it. But as a Jew, the most important thing is Mashiach. To live in a messianic era. And if we're not in a messianic era, create a little Mashiach energy.
Right.
That's what it is.
I love that. I mean, it takes your step. Maybe success is, all of us in one room, like laughing at the joke together, right? That's the idea. Madison Square Garden, let's go. It's something big, where it's like the more people laughing at once, and you're in that is this idea of building bridges. Obviously, this idea of not only is everyone laughing, but people are laughing alongside people that maybe they wouldn't have laughed alongside before that.
Harmony. You know what it's like to do my show, the past show, the Know Your Audience show. We were at the Paramount Theater. I look up and I see a row full of women wearing hijabs. And I said, find out what that is, how they got here.
Yeah.
And they were nurses that work with these Jewish nurses that brought them to see the show.
Amazing.
And that's Mashiach energy. Right. And it's what everybody's looking for. Yeah. We're looking for it. We're looking for, obviously, Mashiach and whatever comes with what that means. Gentiles, Christians, they're looking for Jesus to come back. Right. They're also looking for a messianic. No one's happy with the way things are.
Right.
We have great moments, right? You have your child when you're a grandfather, all of a sudden, boom, a little bit of Mashiach energy. And Muslims too. There's a messianic figure that they're looking for as well. It's a Google messianic Muslim figure, and the name is Modi. M-A-H-D-I. Modi. The way they pronounce my name in Israel. I'm not making this up. It's a true thing.
That's great. And I see, as probably I mentioned to you before we came on screen, that it was a pleasure I love reading books, but watching you on YouTube was certainly easier on my brain and more fun, and I was laughing out loud than reading books. And the number of comments that come in there, I've never experienced Jewish comedy before, or you see people who have not, this is their way into Jewish comedy, and it's very, you're laughing. What happened? Leo planted it? Was that no? Okay, good.
No. I will tell you, Leo, my manager, husband, he runs all of that. Anything you're watching on anything, it's because of him.
Right.
I literally where's the red light? Or here's the stage, get on.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's you're doing JBS, get in there.
Yeah.
The comments that come in on YouTube and Twitter are unhinged.
Yeah.
Instagram, not so bad.
Right.
But Leo has to really take off things that are horrible.
Got it.
Crazy things that people say.
All right. Well, I saw positive things, but yeah.
Right. We keep the positive.
Right.
There's Jewish people who will pull a full Dvar Torah.
Oh.
And did you know that this? And you and being married to him is then Nechil Hashem and this and this and that. But the skit was funny.
Right.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, I was going to say what I thought was very cool about it was that you have people who this is their first experience of Jewish comedy, and I think that it's what we talked a little bit about before, which is that to see someone who's proud and speaking about it comfortably and speaking about it in a diverse and uplifting way, you have these moments like, oh my God, I can't believe, Chas v'shalom, Bernie Madoff. Like you have these like Chilul Hashems, like these disgraceful moments as Jews where people, their access or interaction with a Jew is something that either is terrible or is just not prideful.
Right.
And then to see someone who's like, oh, this is my first time watching Jewish comedy, and I stuck around for over an hour on YouTube to watch this is wild. It's like it's Moshiach energy.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the idea of ben hafochu, the idea of like flipping things upside down. So that's a big theme of Purim. Like you think it's one thing, then it's not. To me, that is comedy a little bit, right? It's the whole thing. You're taking them one way and then you go that way. Is that you zig and you zag when you write your jokes? Like how do you think about like the unexpected turns?
So what you were told we tie tennis into Purim, Adar Yado, that's what you're trying to do?
I'm saying like this idea of, you say tennis into Purim, like the sport of tennis?
No, you're trying to spin this.
Yeah, I'm asking you a question around the Purim story is all about like you think it's one thing and then it's something else, and then I feel like in comedy that's a big piece of it too, right? That's kind of one of the core ideas of comedy, I think, from my one day of doing improv as a kid, is like this idea that part of telling jokes is that like they're expecting one thing and then you say that unexpected thing at the end, right? Isn't that... That's
one
trick in the toolbox.
It's a trick. It's you're guiding them to yes, that's not my thing exactly.
What's your thing?
So again, observational, and it comes out different ways, and you try to get as many callbacks to some other joke before, and you bring into this joke that boom, boom, hilarious.
Right.
And again, I pepper it with facial expressions and with body language. I don't know exactly if we go. The story of Purim is just like, wow. Has no one reading? Does no one see where this is going? Hamas, Hezbollah, all of them. Iran.
Persia.
This happened in Iran.
Yeah.
And at the end, what happened? The evil guy is killed with all of his 10 sons. That's how these things end. So Hamas, how is it going to end how is this Hamas thing going to end? It's not good for them. It won't end good. Now they went back. There's no homes, there's no land. It didn't end good for you. You caught 100, 200 people, kidnapped them, brought them in, and what did that bring you? You didn't. They're calling victory, obviously, but they have a flattened land.
Right.
And there's Amalek and there's Hezbollah and then all of that and that's the story of Purim to me, and then there's the story. You're supposed to get drunk, supposed to be to be in a point where you're not sure who you are, right? And when you open this, let's go. When you did your introduction, and by the way, he read it. I thought he was doing it by heart. He has a teleprompter and he reads it.
It was an outline.
But it was very good. He does it very good. When I begin my podcast to get 3 words out, and they always cut me off. Periel or Leo does the introduction. I'm so horrible at it. You really nailed it. But you're talking about, what was the mushroom line you had?
That the man in the midbar, the manna from heaven was mushrooms.
Yeah.
That's what I taught that in yeshiva.
I want to talk about this with you. Can we discuss this instead of Purim?
Sure. Let's go.
I think they had some amazing drugs back then.
In the desert.
In Bechlal, back in general, back in, when they say Avodah Zorah.
Yeah.
When you talk about Avodah Zorah,
idol worship.
Idol worshiping. So it wasn't like they had a statue and they prayed to this statue. This is the statue. They had drugs, I think. I think that they got them into a level that like we don't even know today. Ooh, we found ketamine. Ooh, we found ecstasy. Ooh, mushrooms. I think they had things back then that were so insane that they had. You cannot worship this.
Right.
This cannot be your thing. And then Kabbalah. I mean, when they wrote the Zohar, they would. Come on.
Artificial enhancement, you think?
Wow.
Yeah.
They want another zone, no?
Right. I'm not a historian on the history of drugs at all, obviously.
Well,
but
they found in some old discovery, the archaeologists, they found like in the synagogue, it was a marijuana plan type of a thing in one of the old. So they had it back then.
This is in Israel.
Sure. In Israel, yeah. I don't know exactly when. On my podcast, I pull quotes out of the Talmud.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like no way, I don't care.
Yeah.
You actually are a rabbi. You have to know where it comes from. I can pull it out of nowhere.
That's great. Yeah.
You can always sit there and just say it's from Talmud Yerushalmi. Look it up, and no one got Talmud Yerushalmi.
Right. No, and let's play there. I'm happy to play there for a few minutes. I think there's definitely a sense that people were acting on some high level. The knowledge they had and where they were going. And we have, stories certainly South America, peyote or ayahuasca, like the ayahuasca. So these things go back millennia, I assume. They're not new. And I think there is something about like reaching high levels through using artificial means on Purim, for sure.
Or not artificial.
Sorry, I shouldn't say.
It could be a mushroom is a mushroom, you're saying.
I apologize, not artificial. The good stuff is artificial, I guess, let's say. Fine. Are you comfortable chatting about that a little bit also? Like, do you, I think there is, certainly in the comedy industry, there's like a people are supposed to be depressed and be addicted to drugs and alcohol. But first of all, do you see that? How do you view those things? Is it like, you don't seem to be depressed from what I've seen, we've only just
I'm not depressed. I'm not depressed, and I'm not addicted to anything, thank God. I think I got every day that cigarettes, alcohol, and gambling have nothing to do with my life. I'm so happy. When you begin doing comedy, you're obviously in clubs, and
stuff's happening, right?
No, but stuff's available.
Right.
So when you start doing comedy, you make that choice. Like, I'm at a bar every night.
Yeah.
Can I just say, another of this, another that, because it's free.
On the house,
da-da-da. And before you know it, you're looking for that. Luckily, I'm vain and want to be thin. Right. So I'm like, that's not where I'm getting my calories from.
Right.
I am not having 3 vodkas, and I know it doesn't look cute afterwards. And plus, I stutter. So if I start drinking, I can't get a word out.
Wow.
Me, 1 cup of wine, I'm blah, 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 blah. I can't get a word out. So that never happened to me. And I grew up in a generation where, if you do marijuana, right away, you're going to do cocaine and die.
Oh, God.
And so I never touched marijuana till many, many years later. And it enhances. It definitely enhances. Right. I talk about it freely on my podcast. I smoke a little bit of marijuana right before I go to the gym. I did
not expect you to finish the sentence that way.
I have 1 pre-roll that lasts me sometimes 2 weeks. Before I walk in the gym, I take 2 hits, I get on the treadmill, and then jokes come into my head.
Wow.
The bits come, and I right away text Leo. And I right away, and then this is this. And sometimes they're completely off.
Right.
Sometimes it's like not where the joke needs to go.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, yes, that's the line we needed.
You're tapping into inspiration a little bit.
Yeah. And those of you, it's a thing. Leo introduced it to me. He goes, there's this thing people work out. And it is, you feel your muscles, you feel the music.
Right.
I start off with like a rave music.
Yeah.
I then go into like disco. And then we go into Avram Fried and Chazanis, and I am in full volume on the treadmill to the point where I can look across the gym and Leo going, shut up, you're screaming, like that.
That's great. Yeah. You mentioned Avram Fried. I'll just say one word, and I think we've certainly seen since October 7th kind of an explosion of Jewish culture, which I assume you're benefiting from as well. That like people are more interested in Jewish music, Jewish comedy. Are you like within the your area of the Jewish comedy space? There are other Jewish comedians, obviously. Are you seeing like a swelling? Is it growing as an industry? There's more people doing the kind of work you're doing. Is that exciting? What do you think?
Interesting. Their songs have come out.
Right.
Am Yisrael Chai. I play that right after Hatikva, and the room is like, wow.
It's like anthems. It's crazy.
It's the new national anthem.
Yeah, we used to put on Beyonce. Now we put on Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai. People are they are. Avram Fried was always Avram Fried, and I think people who aren't religious have discovered him, and Mordechai ben David, and Ishai Ribo, and it's Jewish music is so amazing. I always say I feel so bad for non-Jews that they don't have Jewish music.
Right.
It's so.
I have non-Jewish friends who will hear it in my car and be like, "Oh my God, what is this? Can you send me the Shlomo Katz album?" I'm like, happy to. Wait, but what about in comedy though? You're seeing that also?
In comedy, so again, I see myself as a pause for laughter. So on my Instagram page, we made a conscious decision that this is not where we're posting about bombs going off in Israel, about we've had hostages on the podcast, and we've aired the episodes with them, we've done clips with them, but it's not a place where you land to find out what horrible news is happening in the world. Mm-hmm. Other comics, Michael Rappaport is giving he's showing the anger of the Jewish world. That he's expressing the anger. I am giving them a respite for it. That's also one of the reasons why people ask me, how come you don't wear a tag? And I said, first of all, to be Jewish, I don't need to, I just open my mouth. I don't need a Jewish star or anything.
Sure.
Okay. And people do need a rest from it for a second. I'm providing a rest from it. That's my job. Other comedians talk about it, if you watch Israeli comedians, they address obviously what's happening in Israel the whole time. And because they're living it more than we do. But that's, the artists, I think artists have stepped up. Jewish artists have stepped up.
Right, and the audiences have stepped in, which is amazing.
It ignited. There's a new thing, I call it October 7 Jews.
Right.
They were dormant, and then all of a sudden, what the hell, and what can we do, and how can I go? And let's light a candle Friday night, and let's put on tefillin here and there.
It goes back to the Purim story. All the Jews across the world, they're fasting with Esther. They're in. Gather the Jews. All right, we're out of time, so I'm going to stop. I just want to say to our audience, go to modilive.com, check out the Pause for Laughter tour, buy your tickets. You will not...
Be the friend that brings the friends to the comedy show.
Yes, exactly.
Don't just get 1 or 2 tickets, get a few tickets. By the time the show comes, all your friends will be looking for them, and you'll be able to invite them, so you're not just going to a night with your friends to have branzino and Caesar salad. Yes. Go have laughs with your friends. That's the most important thing. So get a few tickets. Yeah.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.